So what I'm looking to attract is somebody just like me. So if I have a problem with being disciplined, or if I have a problem keeping my word, or I have a problem in the area of being broke. Now, here's one that a lot of you can relate to. You are broke. I mean, you barely came up with the $695 for this course, and you're wondering how in the world you're going to pay for it. I know you're listening to my voice right now. So when you get on the phone and you're talking to somebody about making a $1,000 decision or a $100 decision or even a $29 decision, you are not comfortable. Why? Because you're not comfortable with your own money. Or here's another one. You're not comfortable in your own skin. So how are you going to attract other people that are? They're just not going to want to be around you. Like attracts like. So if you're writing down some things that you're not, you must change your mind. That's the key to the whole business. This whole business, home base, first base, second base, third base, and back to home, is all about you changing your mind in 5 fundamental areas: desire, discipline, disappointment, dialogue, and your destiny. And it's in the process of you making a shift in your thinking that you will get different results with people. So what I'm going to encourage you to do this week is to create a plan of what you're looking to attract in business. And literally, keep it right next to your phone. Keep it right in your business builder if that's what you want to do. And when you're talking to somebody that's rude, if you're talking to somebody that doesn't fit your classification, don't chase them. Don't run out in the water and try to convince them or to beg them to see your point of view. It's not worth your time, your energy, and your money. Okay, let me tell you a little story. I'm married 3 years. I divorced years and years ago, divorced right out of college. Long story short, no children. So when I met my wife that I'm with right now, she said to me, "Greg, I want you to know if you had children from your former marriage, I would have never gone out with you." Now, those were her standards. Now, some women, they would probably say, "Look, I'm not going out with anybody that is divorced, period." Or some other people would say, "I'm not going to go out with anybody that's, I don't know, shorter than me or taller than me," whatever. People have different classifications or qualifications, right? Well, hers was, if I had kids, and please don't tell her that I do. Just kidding. I don't have any children. But the point is, if I didn't meet that qualification, she would have never returned my phone call. And, you know, she's told me that a couple times in our marriage. And it's interesting because she had a standard. All I'm asking you to do is get clear on what you're looking to attract. If you want to be a leader, you'll attract leaders. If you are coachable, you'll attract coachable people. But if you're not, you must change. So you can't change the world. You can't change all your prospects. You can't change your in-laws and your cousins and your warm market and the people that you talk to. But you can change you. You can change your mind. So like attracts like. It's reflective. So if you don't like your prospects and they're all broke, guess what? We need to look at your bank account. We need to look at your checking account. It might be your condition. It's like a mirror. Same thing with discipline. Same thing with being a professional. So what you do is you change your mind. You raise your level. Okay, just as Stuart Wilde said, the key to success is to raise your own energy, or I would say your own ability, or who you are. And when you do, people are naturally going to be attracted. Aren't people naturally attracted to leaders? You know, celebrities and people that are doing things? Of course they are. I mean, because you got what? All the rest. They're all followers, okay? So ask yourself, why did you join this class? Whether you saw me in person or I called you up on the phone and you never met me. Ask yourself, was it because the binder was black and it was had a zipper and the calls fit into your schedule, or was it me? Most likely there was something about me that you said, you know what, I think this guy can teach me something. And all I'm saying is do exactly what I'm doing. It's the same game. Whether you're selling vitamins or long distance or a business builder and a 24-month course, it's all about leadership, I believe, just my personal opinion. Okay, if you have another piece of paper, draw the baseball diamond that we talk about all the time. We talk about a baseball diamond. We're going to do something a little different here. What I like you to do is on home base and first base and second base and third base, put the number 5 on the outside perimeter. So you have a 5 at home base on the outside. Then you do the same thing for first base, second base, and third base, the number 5. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to draw a line from home base to second base, which would be a vertical line. And then you're going to take another line from first base to third base, a horizontal line, and draw that. So it almost looks like a kite if you think about it. It's a diamond, but it's got two lines, a vertical and a horizontal line, and then the number 5555 around the diamond. Now, in the middle, that would be ground zero, or where the pitcher's mound would be. Put a little dot right in the middle to connect the two lines, okay? So imagine you're the pitcher in this game, okay, and you're facing home base, and you're going to take a step forward or a little step forward. I don't know how big your diamond is, so I can't say an inch, I can't say a half an inch or a quarter of an inch. But you're going to go a little further in, and we're going to call that 1. And then you're going to go a little further in, and we're going to call that 2. And then you're going to go a little further in, we're going to call that 3, and then 4, and then the outside is 5. By the way, ground zero is 0. So you're starting at 0, and you're counting out from 0, which is the pitcher's mound, to home base, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You want to put the numbers in there, okay? So from home to the pitcher's mound should go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, okay? Pretty simple, right? All right. Now let's do the same thing from the pitcher's mound to first base. From the pitcher's mound, we're going to take a little step closer to first base, and that's going to be 1. Then you want to do 2, 3, 4, and then 5 is on the outside, okay? Now that we've done that with home base and first base, do the same thing with second base and do the same thing with third base. So what you're looking at is a 0 in the middle, or ground zero, and then it's counting out from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in each dimension. First base, second base, third base, and home base. Now, what we're going to ask you to do is rate yourself where you are right now. Now, this is just a snapshot. This is going to show you what you must work on or focus on in the next 12 or 6 months or 2 years to change your mind to create a different reality. The first thing we're going to talk about is home base, desire. What is your level of desire? Are you a 0 or are you a 5? Let me explain. If you did a game plan interview, that's a good thing. That's going to score some points for you. If you created a game plan and a preview, which is at the beginning of the book, and you also focused on your goals, and you also wrote in your journal, or you're writing in your journal, and you know what you desire, and you're peeling back the onion, so to speak, then that's going to give you some points. Now, if you just said, oh, wait, I don't write, I'm not going to write down my perfect day because I'm probably not going to get it anyway, or I'm not going to write down any goals because I've been disappointed in the past. Preview, what's he talking about, preview? I don't even know where the preview is. I hate this dumb book. If you're there, you're probably at a 1 or a 0. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a 0 or 1, okay? There's nothing wrong with being a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. I want you to think about everything that I talked about desire the first time we had a phone call together. Where do you think you are in the level of mastery? Do you think you're a 5? In other words, you're really crystal clear on your vision, what you desire in your life. You look at your goals every morning, every night. Maybe you made the affirmation cards when you make your phone calls, and you know it's about a new Corvette. You see it. You got a cutout, and it's in front of your television or your board in front of you. Or, you know, it's pasted on the mirror. You know you want to buy a new house. You want to fire your boss. You want to go full-time in this business. You want to get to presidential, or you want to get to this level or that level. If that's where you're at, you're probably a 4 or a 5. You know, if you're kind of like in the middle, you're probably a 2 or a 3. So what I'm going to ask you to do is rate yourself, and this is personal between yourself. You can always change this. And I'm hoping that you're going to change this, and you're going to grow into a 5 in this area. Okay? So put a little dot. You either put it at 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Okay? Now, when it comes to discipline, now, where are you at? Like, where are you at right now? In the last 5 weeks, the last month, the last week, the last couple of days, are you writing in your circles and putting in your squares? Are you filling out the weekly performance grid? And are you writing down your numbers in the business activity review? And are you coming to the calls on Sunday night at 8:30? See, every Sunday night at 8:30, we have an open mic. See, these calls, it's pretty much me talking and me lecturing live. But when you come to the 8:30 call on Sunday night, it's you talking. It's you live. It's calling in and saying, Greg, here are my numbers, good, bad, or ugly. This is what it is. It is what it is. You know, when you're talking numbers, there's no story. You know, you could talk about excuses and the weather and politics and the government. When you're talking about circles and squares and numbers, it's just numbers. So how well are you handling the discipline? Now, I know when I first started, I hated it. I absolutely hated being accountable to anybody else. I didn't want to look at this book, and then I had to change my mind. So if you find yourself, you look at your book for the last 4 to 5 weeks, and you got your circles in, your squares in, your weekly performance grid is all filled in, the business activity, and you love talking with me one-on-one or in a big circle of people at the business activity review call on Sunday night at 8:30, then you're probably a 4 or 5. If you know you need room for improvement, you're probably a 2 or a 3. You know that you've never even opened this book and you don't even know what the Business Builder is, you're probably a 0 or a 1. That doesn't mean you're bad, and it doesn't mean you're not doing this business, because you certainly can do this business just by talking to people and never keeping track of it. But I prefer to keep this predictable, and I love the numbers because the numbers show me exactly what I'm going to make this year. All right, the next area is second base. Second base is mastery of disappointment. How do you feel when you pick up the phone, or how do you feel when you go to a party, or you give a presentation, or you do a follow-up call? Somebody says yes, and they really mean no, which I call deception. Or somebody says, you know what, I can't believe you're doing this. You're such an idiot. Don't ever call me about this again. That's rejection. Hopefully that's not your wife or husband. My point is, what goes through your mind emotionally? How do you handle rejection and deception and apathy and attrition? Let's face it, people are not going to stick around and do this forever. Some are going to come in and buy the products and stop. Other people are going to come in and build the business, and they're only going to last a year or two or maybe 6 months, or who's kidding ourselves? Sometimes they won't even last 90 days. How do you feel when that happens? Are you surprised? I remember when this started happening to me, I used to get surprised. Nothing surprises me anymore. This is what we call thick skin. In fact, tonight, an hour from now, look at your watches, everybody. An hour from now, we're going to be doing our first power tune-up of this month. We do it exactly the same time. It'll be an hour from my clock right now, and the gentleman's going to talk about thick skin. Do you have thick skin, or do you have skin that, somebody tells you something or looks at you the wrong way, you're just like, you don't want to pick up the phone for weeks? I got to tell you a funny story. I called a woman, I did my cold call, I went through my presentation, and she started yelling at me like a crazy person. So I ended up hanging up the phone, getting to the next call. She called me back. I hung up the phone, she called me back again. She called me back 5 times in like 3 minutes, and I started getting scared. So I unplugged the phone, and I sat there for a second, and I said to myself, this woman, I can't believe I called her. She's kind of crazy, and she's threatening me, and she's just acting like a nut. What am I going to do? And I looked at the wall, and I said to myself, I got 2 choices. I can quit for today, or I can quit, period, or I can pick up the other phone and get going. And what I did, folks, is I unplugged my phone. I unplugged it, put it down on the floor, and I picked up my fax phone, and I started making calls. And I just didn't care. Now, I probably couldn't have done that 10 years ago. 10 years ago, that would have devastated me. I would have quit for the day or the week or maybe even a year. So how are you doing? How are you doing emotionally? Do you know that this is just a game? It's not life and death. It can be fun. But if you don't take it personally, that's the only way it can be fun. But if you take this personally and you take to heart what everybody says, you're probably not going to be a leader. Study all the leaders in history. Study all the leaders today. Do you think they take it all personally, what people say and do? They can't. I mean, think about the President of the United States. Do you think he takes it personally? He can't. So how are you doing? How are you doing? Are you 5? Are you got thick skin? Are you 4, a 3, 2? A 1 or a 0 is somebody tells you no, and you start bursting into tears, and you say to yourself, that Greg Dwyer, I don't want to do this business anymore, and you want to zip up your Business Builder and put it under your bed, and you want to quit. That's a 0. That's a 1. Now let's go to third base. Third base is about dialogue. Are you doing all the talking? If you pick up the phone and call your friends or your leads and you're doing all the yakking like I am tonight for the last hour, you are a 0. You are a 1. Now, I'm not saying you're a 0 or 1, but that's your level of skill. You're pretty much a 1. You're an infant. But if you're asking questions and you're listening to, the way people talk, like you're listening to their language. If you hear somebody say, the bottom line is I want to make more money, and money is really important to me, I want to buy that sports car, you're probably dealing with a red personality or a leadership personality Or you're dealing with somebody that, they say, well, I want to know what's in the product and I have to do my research. Are you really tuned in to the way they're thinking and the way they process information? Are you learning how to connect with people? Or are you doing the presentation one size fits all? Can you be successful one size fits all by getting on the phone and reading a script and having an outline? Sure. You probably have to talk to hundreds and hundreds of people, and you'll probably be successful that way. But you'll be better by learning how to listen and how to connect with people and listening for clues to find out what's important to them. Do they want to help people? Do they want to make a difference in people's life? Are they social? What motivates them? So you got to figure out what motivates people. See, when I get on the phone and I sell my business planner and I sell my 12-month course, whether I'm doing a presentation live or I'm on the phone, I have to figure out why the person is in business for themselves. If I start talking about making a lot of money and they're not into that, they just want to help the world with their health, then I've just missed the sale. So you got to learn how to do it. So how are you doing? I know this is brand new material for you, only about a week or two old perhaps. So do you feel that you're really bad at this, like you're a 1, you just do all the talking, or you feel that you're a 2 or a 3 or 4 or 5? Rate yourself, okay? So far, we've rated ourselves on desire, discipline, mastering disappointments, and dialogue. Now what I'd like you to do is connect the dots. Connect the dots in a circle. So go from home base to first base to third base, right around the circle, and connect them. Now imagine that this was a tire or a wheel going down a highway at 80 miles an hour. What would this wheel look like if, when it came to home base, you were a 5, and first base you were a 5, and second base you were a 5, but when it came to third base you were a 1? In other words, you had a flat tire. What would happen to the rim? What would happen to the tire if you kept on driving down that highway going 80 or 100 miles an hour? Eventually, that tire is going to wear down to the common denominator. That means that flat tire over there on third base is going to affect home base, first base, and second base. After a while, you're going to be looking at 1, 1, 1, 1 right around the circle because your weakness is going to bring down the other numbers. Okay, let me give you an example. Let's say you're really good at discipline. In other words, you're a 5. And you have great desire. You know exactly what you want. You're a 5. But when it comes to second base, which is mastering disappointment and learning how to get past your limited thinking and all the things that get in your way, like frustrations, like you consider yourself a 1, you're never going to make it. You're never going to make it unless you raise your level in that area. This is why I tell people, this course isn't for everybody. This direct sales network marketing is not for everybody because it requires a growth process of changing your mind. And the rub is most people never, ever want to look at themselves. They never want to change. They want to stay the same in life but get different results. And when they don't get it, they tend to blame other people. I think you're different. If you're on this call tonight and you're listening to my voice, I believe there's hope because this is a way to take a look at where you're at so that you can be responsible for changing your mind. Let's face it, you can't change the weather. You can't change how your spouse says or thinks or does or anything else for that matter, what your prospects say. But one thing you can change, one thing you do have control over, and that is your thinking, your mindset, and who you are. So this is a snapshot. If you're seeing low results here, this is what you must focus on to get better results. And if you find that you're really great in one area but you're terrible in another area, work on your weakness. Because when you look at desire and discipline and mastering your disappointments and learning how to connect with people, dialogue, they all tie together into leadership. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about where we're going in this course. A lot of people who don't listen, they think that this course is 5 weeks. This course is not 5 weeks. This course is 12 months or 2 years. So what do you get out of this course? First of all, you get professional support for 2 years or 1 year. For the amount of money that you invested, I believe this is a great value. What we do is every 5 weeks, we start a new course. In fact, we're starting a new course. Let me look at my watch. In exactly, 2 hours, just about 2 hours from now. Brand new class, brand new group of people from different companies. every single 5 weeks, we start up again with home base, first base, second base, third base, and back to home. You know, it's like Barry Manilow singing Mandy for the millionth time, you know. He's good at it. It was a great song. It is a great song. Or Copacabana. You know what I'm saying? So every 5 weeks, I'm here doing these calls at different times. Because tonight we're wrapping up with home base with Destiny, and we talked about taxes and money and leadership. And about 2 hours from now, just about 2 hours, I'm starting with a new class. And guess what? You are invited back. That means if you've missed it or you haven't assimilated this or you want to hear this, you can come back at no cost because you're a paid customer, because you're in the course. Now, you can't invite your friends and relatives and people in your downline who haven't invested in this because we don't do free training. We don't believe in free training. If you ever read Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, he talks about free training. And he says free training is generalized knowledge, and he says it's worthless because people don't act on it. Generalized training is like high school or free training or people giving you free advice. Specialized training is this course. You pay for it. You have to be accountable. To get the benefits, you have to show up and do it, okay? So every 5 weeks, if you want to come back and listen to first base or second base or third base, or even if you want to go through the whole course, again, you can do that at no cost, okay? Now, in addition to that, every single call that we do is completely live. This is not a recorded call, though it is recorded for people who can't make tonight's call and want to listen to it in the future. Every single time we do a course, it's different. It's not your course because we have different people in the course from different companies, and they also send me back the emails with the questions telling me what they think their strengths and their weaknesses are. And I do read them, and every time we do a class, I try to address that inside the class, inside the lecture. So you are invited to come back again and again and again and again and again to hear this, to put it into practice up to a year or 2 years, depending on what course you're in. Now, in addition to that, we do 4 training calls every single month. 4 training calls, and you please write these down. Number 1, we do a power tune-up call. You are going to get an email about this, or you probably already did. It's a power tune-up. I call it a leadership call, where I will go over one aspect of the baseball diamond again, and it takes about 60 minutes. So many times I will do the call, or I'll bring in a guest speaker as I'm bringing in tonight. These are people that agree with me, I agree with them, and they're not going to bring new information to the table. They're going to talk about desire. They're going to talk about discipline. They're going to talk about mastering a different mindset, which is disappointment. They're going to talk about dialogue, which is connecting with people, and they're going to talk about taxes and leadership. They're not going to talk about some far-off thing that you've never heard from or heard about before, because I believe the fundamentals, the basics, is all you need to master. That's all you have to focus on. If you focus on what your desire is, and you take action, first base, and you learn to think differently, second base, and you learn how to connect with people and become a leader and manage your money, what else do you need to know in business? There's really nothing else. You don't have to buy another book. Now, can you? Sure, you can write it off, you can learn something, but it's the fundamentals that I believe you should focus on. So once a month, it's always the first Sunday of every single month, and we do this call called a power tune-up. Why do we bring in guests? Because a lot of times you can't hear it from me. Maybe you don't like my tone of voice, or you don't like the fact that I'm a guy, or I'm too blunt, or something. So we bring in somebody else, a woman or somebody else that will say it differently. And you go, oh, yeah, that's great. I had somebody call me about 6 months ago and say, oh, I just love that call, that guest speaker. They said this, and they said this, and they said this. And after they were done, I thought to myself, that's exactly what I've been saying for the last 2 years. But they weren't able to hear it from me. So power tune-up, I think it's a leadership call. We've brought experts in about taxes. We've brought experts in on prospecting, mindset. You're going to love these calls. Now, I said there were 4 calls, so here's the other one. Every single Sunday night, we do a business activity review call. The purpose of the call is simple. You call in and you just give us your numbers from the business activity review page, which is in the back of your business builder. Now, why do this? It's the same reason Weight Watchers has success. We find that most people don't want to be accountable or disciplined, but if you are accountable and you are disciplined and you share your numbers with somebody like myself or your upline or with a team player or with a group of people, you are going to accomplish a lot more than if you just try to do this by yourself. So in addition, you're going to find me here at 8:30 every single night with an open line, open dialogue, business activity review call. And I'm going to tell you, folks, it's the people that show up to that call and participate that I'm betting on winning this game. The people that have something else to do or an excuse or they don't want to call in the numbers because their numbers are zero or they're not serious, I can bet that they're probably not going to be in network marketing 5 years from now because they're not playing this seriously like a true business. Okay, in addition to that, we do a timeout call. Every month we call a timeout. Open mic where you can ask me anything you want. You say, Greg, I'm using the Business Builder. I've listened to the class 2 or 3 times, but you know what? I'm just not getting people to sign up. What am I doing wrong? What can I do different? It's like having a coach. The only difference is you're in a group of people. It's most likely it's not going to be one-on-one with you. In addition to that, we also do live prospecting. Every single month we get on the phone, we'll call your people, we'll call my people, we'll call other people's people, and we will just have fun and prospect. We'll put you on mute, you get to sit in the background, put it on speaker, and just listen to me prospect. Why do I do it? Because I want to show you that I can do what I teach, that I practice what I preach. And it kind of comes together. I had a woman out in Nebraska said to me a couple years ago, Greg, the price of this course, live prospecting, is just hands down the best thing I've ever listened to. Because what I do is I take all of the bases, desire and discipline and disappointment, mindset and connecting with people, specifically third base, and I just get on the phone and I have conversations with people. And I can show you how easy and naturally this is to do. And it's not that hard. So in addition, we do a power tune-up every first Sunday of the month. We do a business activity review call every single Sunday night. That's weekly, by the way, folks. 1 timeout per month and live prospecting. And every 5 weeks, we have a different course that we invite you to. And you can do this up to a year or 2 years. So I believe it's great value. So I'm going to give you 5 questions that you can hang this whole course on. 5 questions. Because we've talked a lot. Some of these calls were an hour. Some of them were an hour and a half. And we've gone for 5 consecutive weeks. How would you like to have 5 questions that you can hang the whole course on so that you'll never forget this course? If you never come on another call, if you never come to next month's call in April or May, June, July, August, or whatever, you will remember this. There are 5 questions that keep me focused, and these are questions that I'm asking myself on a daily basis. Number 1, what do I really desire? What do I really desire? That's question number 1, okay? That's home base. Everything that I shared about home base, about the game plan interview, the preview, the goals, the journaling, all of that can be hung like a peg with this one question. What do I really desire? That's how simple that is, okay? Number 2, what will I do today? Or what will I do now? I even like that better. What will I do now? That is first base. You know, you're sitting there going, what should I do? Or how am I going to do this business? And you come to the conclusion that the only time you're working your business is when you're having a conversation with somebody that can make a decision about what you have, your product or your opportunity. So the second question is, what will I do now? Or what will I do today? The third question is, how am I thinking about this? Okay? How am I thinking about this? See, you call somebody up and they tell you something and you're a little upset and you get, emotional or you get angry even. You want to stop and catch yourself and say, how am I thinking about this? Is there another way of looking at this or thinking about this? Remember the difference between now, here, and nowhere? It's all in your perception. It's all how you look at it. You hang up the phone and you're really upset and you want to quit and you're saying to yourself, I don't know if I should do this anymore. This doesn't work. How come I'm not successful? Or you can say to yourself, what am I learning from this? Okay? And it all depends on your attitude. The next question, how can I connect with this person? How can I connect with this person? That's a third base question. Just like the question I just gave you before this is a second base question. And the last question is, who am I becoming? See, when you get to the point where you're managing money differently and you're understanding the tax code differently, that you're using the tax diary system and saving money and reinvesting it in your business, and you're also becoming a leader by mastering these fundamentals, you're not going to be the same person. I'm not the same person I was a year ago. I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago, not the same person I was 10 years ago. How do I know? Well, I've kept a journal. I've looked at my thoughts, a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and I'm looking at this, reading this, saying, wow, this is how I was thinking then. I don't think this way now. I've changed my mind in certain areas. Oh, lo and behold, I'm also getting different results. So how do you anchor this? How do you keep this near to your heart so that this isn't something you have to listen to me say to you all the time? How do you get this so it's a part of you? Well, what I ask you to do is look at your left hand, the back of your left hand. You got your thumb, then you got your index finger, you got your middle finger, you got your ring finger, and you got your pinky. Now, if you use your imagination, it kind of looks like the bases. The thumb could be home base, the index finger can be first base, the middle finger can be second base, the third finger or the ring finger can be third base, and the pinky could be back to home. So if you anchor this or you connect these questions with your back of your left hand, the thumb and the four fingers, here's how you can remember this. If you're looking at the back of your hand, look at your thumb and ask yourself, when you're looking at your thumb, what do I really desire? What do I really want to attract out of my life? That's your thumb, okay? When I get in conversations with people at church or at the office or different places, and it gets to be a conflict or things aren't going my way or whatever the situation, if I'm on the phone with a prospect or I'm talking to my wife, let's face it, that question can neutralize you. It can ground you. You're ready to get into an argument or you're ready to get upset when you're on the phone prospecting, and you just stop and you look at your thumb and you say, well, what do I really desire here? What I'm looking to accomplish? Sometimes you just have to say next and move on and get to the next call. Or in some cases, when you're talking to a loved one, you just have to agree with them and move on because you want peace more than wanting to win the conversation, or being right. So what do I really desire? That's the thumb. In my mind, that's my thumb. My index finger. What will I do today, or what will I do now? That's there, right next to my thumb. Then the middle finger. How am I thinking about this? Am I looking at this as a situation that it's hopeless, or am I looking at this that I can learn something? I believe in life, no matter what happens to you, you can learn something from the situation. So the middle finger. How am I looking at this, or how am I thinking about this? Am I nowhere, or am I now here? Somebody disagrees with you, or somebody hangs up the phone, or someone tells you you're crazy. You can use it as an opportunity to strengthen your beliefs, or you can use it as an excuse to quit. But I'm telling you, if your desire is really big, you're not going to quit. The next one is your ring finger. How can I connect with this person? Somebody's talking to you. You're like a Sherlock Holmes. You're learning how to connect with them so that you can relate to them, so that you understand what their motives are and what's important. It's not about just telling a pat answer story. It's about learning how to communicate with people. Folks, it didn't happen for me in a summer. What if I tell you this is maybe going to take you 6 to 9 or 12 months to learn by reading books like Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, how to read books like Cialdini, how to influence people, and learn really how to connect with people. It takes time. It takes practice. The next finger is the pinky. Who am I becoming? Who am I becoming? Are you becoming a person of influence? Are you becoming a leader? Are you becoming a person that is better managing your money? See, all of these questions and the answers you can anchor to your hand, your thumb, your index finger, your middle finger, your ring finger, and your pinky. And by having that in front of you, you have the whole course. The whole course can serve you not only in business for yourself, but also in life. If you never make another phone call, if you never swallow another pill, if you never prospect, everything that I've taught you, home base, first base, second base, third base, and back to home, you already know. You just need to be reminded of it, and you need to know that you can do this. So let me leave you with a little story. A very, very wise man was challenged one day by a young person. He was trying to trick this person. He walked up to this old scholar, this very wise man, and he had his hands closed. And he came up to the man and he said, "What do I have in my hand? Is the bird alive or is it dead?" He told him he had a bird in his hand. And the wise man thought about it for a second. He says, if I tell the young man that the bird is in his hand, he's going to crush the bird and he's going to show me that the bird is dead. And if I tell him that the bird is dead, he's going to open up his hands and he's going to let the bird fly away, and I'm going to be wrong. And he thought to himself, either way I answer this question, I'm going to be wrong. If I tell him he's got a bird that's alive, he's just going to kill it. And if I tell him the opposite, he's just going to let it go. So either way that I answer, it's going to be wrong. So he thought differently. He thought outside the box. And he simply said, it is as you will. It's the same way with this course. Everything that I've shared with you, I haven't held back any of it. But you know what, folks? It's up to you. Just listening to me, recording these calls and saying, oh, God, I like what Greg said, or I didn't like what Greg said, or it's not going to be anything. It's not going to mean a hill of beans. The only thing that's going to matter is you creating an action plan and playing this game. And what it really comes down to is, will you? Will you play this game? Will you get focused? Will you run the bases? Will you be organized? Will you be consistent? It's up to you. So let me say this. You are standing on a diamond mine of potential. Change your mind. We'll see you tonight at the Business Activity Review Call. We hope that you come to the Power Tune-Up, the live prospecting that we do this month, and also our timeout. It's been a pleasure sharing these weekends with you, and believe me, guys, this is not the end. This is just the beginning. Have a great night. Bye-bye.